My body's ready.
G'day everyone, welcome to the 30th Meninx Games live stream, and
Yeah.
I'm your host CS Cooper with a very, very bad cold. But yeah, and we've got our panel today. We've got Captain Dark Duck, we've got Krizik, and we've got Monkey, and today we are talking about, what are we talking about today, gents? We're talking about whether or not Pragmata is a dad game, and then we're going to talk about the Stop Killing Games movement and whether or not it should extend to Stop Killing Software. And then we are going to move on to whether or not classic games were really better. So since I haven't played Pragmata, I've only seen a few trailers of it. I think I will, I'll let you guys. So who here has actually played it?
That would be me. Anyone else?
Nope.
None of us have actually played this game, and we want to
It's
talk
expensive, okay?
I've seen some playthroughs. I've seen enough to at least talk about the data aspect of the storyline.
Yep. Okay. Because I've looked at trailers, I can see how people would think it. Because it's By the way, how's the audio?
Oh,
Who's
I have
watching
not
the stream?
checked. I will check. Ski.
Cool, you're fine.
Audio's fine. Sweet.
Yeah, sounds
Yeah, you're
Okay,
fine.
so I can understand why people would think that this Pragmata is a dad game, because because it's like a little girl and a big guy, and so you can and the girl's always like piggybacking on the bigger guys, the bigger characters' back, so I can understand that. So so tell us more about it.
Audio's great, by the way.
Sure.
Wonderful. Yeah, so Pragmata as a game is honestly quite simple story-wise. It's the main focus really is just his two protagonists, the little girl Diana and Hugh, the big guy. They're just going through a moon base trying to get home. So the majority of the interactions between the two is just the Diana, this android that acts exactly like not exactly like a little kid, but like a ideal version of a little kid. None of the tantrums and all that. Just the look how cool the world is. What are these? There's deer here, like holographic deer. What is that?
She's
And
innocent.
she's basically just like the daughter character, and Hugh is Hugh is the father figure. What I got to note is the way Hugh's written, because normally what I expect is for there to be a lot more reticence, hesitation, or maybe just a bit of rejection from the protagonist Hugh. To the android girl, just because, well, in the story, Hugh is an orphan. He doesn't have a wife or girlfriend and doesn't want kids. And there isn't really much pushback from Hugh, against him being in the role of the father for Diana. He kind of just almost immediately gets into it. Which I guess is why I would say the game can be. I would say the relationship can be that of a daughter-father. Can be classified as a daughter-father relationship, just because, well, there's not really any conflict there between the two. It's mainly just, okay, here is this cute little girl. She's helping you out in a strange moon base, and, well, you're looking after her now.
I mean, it's a tried and true formula.
Yeah, it works very well. Like, yeah, I say this because the only other example I really have is either BioShock Infinite, The Last of Us, not The Last of Us, The Walking Dead, also The Last of Us. But The Last of Us especially because we had Joel, who was very against becoming a father figure for Ellie in the beginning of the game. And it's only really like halfway through does he start opening up to her.
Yeah.
Even then slowly.
Yeah. I wonder why they made that decision to have them sort of accept her straight away.
It is a Japanese game though, and they do write things differently in Japan. And I guess the story as a whole is more of a journey of the two. Instead of there being interpersonal conflicts between the two, instead you're seeing it's more like an excuse to show how endearing this character Diana can be. Because
I don't know
there's a
much
bunch of
about the
collectible.
game. What exactly is the explanation as to why she's there?
And why
She is a special android that was that happens upon you after your whole crew gets killed by the antagonist. So she runs into you, patches up your suit, and then you're together for the rest of the game. In terms of her backstory, what we know is that she is a more advanced android than every other android on the base, possibly some experimental model.
So
And there isn't much else.
She sounds like Midna from Twilight
A little
Princess.
bit, yeah. She fulfills the role of Midna quite well now that you mention it.
Huh.
But yeah, she's a very good companion. There's a lot of interactions between the two, but when you're exploring, when you're in combat, and also when you're in the safe zone, the hub, the shelter, where in this place you can put all your collectibles down for her, which is stuff you would get a kid to amuse themselves, like a slide, some balloons, and whatever.
So, for the sake of the topic, would you say that as a character, does she feel like she's being forced into the story, or do you feel that she's being approached kind of naturally, as natural as the scene or the story will allow? What are your feelings on that?
I would say it's very, like, it is kind of contrived. Like, okay, it's very convenient that she ran across us in our bleakest moment when we were about to die. But low contrived, but that's fine. In regards to how naturally she feels in the story, she feels very natural in it. Yeah, she doesn't
Take your
feel
word
like
for it, because what I've seen of the game, I am not so convinced of it, but I haven't actually played it, so.
fair.
Yeah. I did have the suspicion it was kind of pro-AI propaganda, but then, I don't know, did you get that sense from it?
Nah, that's the thing. The AI, there's other AI in the game. The antagonist is the main AI of the Luna base.
Okay.
So you can have your anti-AI propaganda with that one, which, yeah, I can see that. Also, the game has a big theme on, like, what happens when AI takes everybody's jobs? What happens then? What do people do with their lives at this point? The AI can just build everything, and up to and including new atmospheres. So
I feel like there's a new job market we'll probably discover. Like when we first invented the internet, I don't think people were expecting social media influencers to be a new job to be invented, and yet there it is.
Rampant fornification. Yeah, that would be the future, I think, where people have nothing else going on and they have a lot of free time.
Yeah, don't.
It's hard to
pill
tell.
me, man.
Remember that for humans, when the more comfortable they get, the less likely they are to breed.
That is true.
Yeah.
Huh.
I don't like that.
No.
That makes me depressed beyond all measure.
The human animal is a very counterintuitive thing, I must admit.
Yeah, maybe going into the black pill territory a little too early for the stream.
Well, I'm not
so
sure that's a what's the term? What did you say again? It's not necessarily counterintuitive because when we do rat experiments with similar actions, you see the same thing.
Oh, the mouse utopia experiment?
Right. They,
Yeah.
they actually, as time goes on, they breed less and less. In fact, there's a rampant rise in homosexual activity amongst the rats.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, rampant fornication. Yeah.
And constant grooming, which is what we see today on social media.
Well,
Oh,
no
God.
comment.
Yeah.
Well,
I
so
mean-
I'm curious for Pragmata. So is it a bad thing to be considered or get the reputation of being a dad game? Is that a bad thing?
No, I don't think so, because I think we want games to encourage parenthood. That's one of the reasons why, like, the game I'm working on, the next game I'm working on, the RPG, I've made it so that it's a mother and a father trying to reverse the curse of their daughter. I thought it'd be really good to encourage a parenthood game. And one of the ideas I'm thinking is that at the start, when you start a new game, you choose which one is the main character, the mother or the father, and the story is slightly different based on that. Because
That could be fun.
because I want fatherhood, I want parenthood to be an important, like, thing that people think of, you know. Yeah, because I'm about to become a parent myself, so yeah.
I'm
But
getting married this year. Oh.
yeah, but anyway, so I don't think it's a bad thing for what was it? Yeah, I don't think it's a bad that it's a dad game or anything like that. In fact, I think people should try and think like I think people should think of it as endearing. To be honest,
We need more
I
dad games. Well,
in a way,
yeah.
it kind of is a bit more refreshing since for the last decade or so, men have been torn down to some extent,
yeah,
or to a great extent. So actually fostering bonds between between men and or just between people in general, I think is well, it's on the lighter side. It takes us closer to a white pill than a black pill.
oh yeah,
I think it depends what kind of dad game. Because if you're talking about a dad game like at least what this one looks like, and then sure, yeah, that's fine. But if you're talking about like a new dad kind of thing, I think it can be bad. A propaganda piece for how people should act in the modern age or something.
You must accept your AI overlords. Look, they're children, just like you have children of the human
Yeah,
variety.
that's
That
not
is
what I
that.
meant.
Honestly, though, there has been a few. Look, all I'm saying is Diana has hit the female streamer market. Like, can I make that joke about the ghetto and the CIA? I don't think so. No.
Always make the CIA joke.
All I'm saying is the second they see Diana come up with a little drawing she made of you and her, they all just squeal, all of them, without fail.
Well, I think that's good. Like it encourages it, especially it makes the ladies think, "Oh my god, that's so cute! I want to have kids." Which
Now that you
is
mention
really
it,
really
there are precious little examples of kids in media. Like I don't know how to phrase this really. Like just a kid being a kid, doing their own, behaving like a child. They got that little wonder in their eye. They don't quite know how things work. They see everything as like fresh and new to them and all that.
Yeah, a kid being a kid, but also not being used as a propaganda piece. That's refreshing. When a kid can just be a kid and not being pushed into supporting a cause like Greta Thunberg.
Oh
yeah, you make a good point there.
Poor kid.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. That's the thing with Dad. She is just an untouched example of just here is a child. Like, sure, it's the ideal of a child. There's not really any downsides to raising a child like Diana. She doesn't argue. She doesn't throw tantrums. Definitely not like the real thing, but she does show the ideal of it.
Yeah.
Very well.
Yeah. No, see, when I was in uni, right, I really liked Cardcaptor Sakura. Did you guys ever watch that show?
Yes.
Yeah.
Feels
Years
So
ago.
so
More
I
than me.
watched. I first watched it when I was in primary school, and it was the very, very censored, very watered down version. It just felt like another version of Pokemon, right? But then I watched the original anime in uni, and I read the original manga as well. And yeah, all the crap that's in it, right? Yeah, get rid of that, right? That's like liberal utopia bullshit that we don't want to see, right? but there was one thing that I thought was really, really cool. There's this bit where Sakura's dad explains that her grandfather, her mother's father, doesn't like him and doesn't approve of him marrying his daughter, right? And Sakura, she just loses her shit and she says, "No, Dad, that's not good. If you and Mum had never gotten married, I would never have been born, and I am so happy to be alive."
Yep.
You do not get that in, like, you don't get that in a lot of modern female characters. You do not get this sensation that this girl, like, that the character is happy to be alive. So, yeah, and I don't think, and you gotta create more characters like that. You gotta create characters that are actually happy to be alive, because a lot of characters we've had are dickheads like House, who's constantly contemplating suicide, or Martin Riggs from Lethal Weapon, who wants to kill himself, or all these characters who don't seem to have an appreciation for their lives. And it came through in the Saw movie, that kind of thing. Like the what was the villain's name?
I'm not sure, but I get what you mean. His whole philosophy was very nihilistic, dressed up as justice. Really, granted, he did give people a chance to live, yada yada yada, and it was everyone else who decided, no, we're going to be murder hobos about this. Regardless, he was very nihilistic.
Yeah.
Yeah, moving away from those characters that are anti-heroes. Those characters also tend to have a tendency of maybe apathy or that suicidal tendencies. So moving to a more positive character like Hugh, I think it's a nice, it's refreshing, really.
Yeah.
So I do like that aspect.
Yeah, like
I think the hard part for characters such as House is that he's depicted as a highly intelligent individual. And generally, when it comes to people who are hyper intelligent in various media, I think they really struggle to draw a genuinely happy person who isn't also a psychopath.
Yeah. Like, that's one of the reasons I didn't like Big Bang Theory, is like none of the characters were actually quite terribly redeeming.
Mm-hmm.
They all felt like absolute assholes. I couldn't sit through that show.
Where did
So-
that
I feel like
start?
that's a lot. That's for
Hero?
most live actions today. I can't think of heck, even things that like mimic live actions, like Total Drama Island. Imagine any of those guys in that show being even decent. It's hard.
Yeah.
They're just terrible people.
Was it Sonic the Hedgehog that started the whole anti-hero thing in the 90s? Was that?
with Shadow?
No, it was Sonic
the
himself.
Shadow.
No,
Sonic?
like Sonic being kind of a, well, not
Oh, right, 'cause-
okay, not an anti-hero,
No,
but maybe a anti.
He was a smart aleck.
Like a chaotic hero, an anti-establishment hero.
Maybe. Yeah, because his fight against Robotnik, you can argue, was rather disestablishmentarianism.
Yeah. And he was cool. He ate junk food. He, lazed around and stuff. He didn't care about
Maybe.
Wasn't that
Sad.
just the American version? If you went to the Japanese version, it didn't have the same thing, did it?
Was the first series American or was that Japanese?
I think it was
Both.
Japanese.
They
Oh.
had two different series, one that was American and one that was Japanese.
And the
That's
American
why,
one was like bipolar or something. It was really
So
bipolar.
yeah, the American one had a lot more ugly of an Eggman, and he was the one that essentially had already taken control of the world and was being fought against by Sonic.
See, like the more I think about Robotnik, the more I'm like, is he actually going to exist in the future? It's just like, hey Sonic, I took your friends, I turned them into androids. Like
I
what?
choose to believe Robotnik is with us forever.
He's always here. The Eggman cometh.
He's a silly guy, and I gotta say, I appreciate Robotnik. Let's just not talk about manga Robotnik. That guy scares me.
Oh, how about live action Robotnik?
He was fun. I liked him.
Yeah. For
Carrey's
me,
alright.
Jim Carrey will always only be able to act as Jim Carrey. He's like
That's
the
probably
mask in
why I
every
left him.
movie.
But
Oh, that was weird, that thing recently. When he comes out and he's like making mask quips type of thing, and it doesn't look like him. And then like did you guys see that or did that pass you guys by?
nope.
I did not. No.
So he comes out at an awards show, and he notoriously hates awards shows, and so he's just acting kind of really weird, and he's just like, "Oh, I love this place. This place is great. I was looking for the coolest place, and here it is," you know. And then he's like, "My favorite mask is the mask I'm wearing right now," and then he looks directly into the camera, and it's like, "What is this?"
I think he's on the drugs again.
Well, it turns out, I think the most likely thing is he hired an actor to impersonate him, which, and then to go to this awards ceremony. It was the weirdest thing, but
It
I
could have
would
been
actually
just
believe.
it could have been just a funny fourth wall break kind of attempt.
maybe, I mean,
Eventually.
it was a weird thing because he did not look like himself, which was a really, yeah, I don't know. But now, like, it's hard to know what to believe, but I'm half inclined to say they're like replacing people with clones. Who even knows?
Yeah.
But the lizard men will eventually clone you, and you will be forced to look after a little robot girl. You don't have a choice in this matter.
They're like, all of our 23andMe research has accumulated in this. Now you show us the moon base with a little girl.
I don't have the bandwidth to look over a robotic girl. I have all these Tamagotchis that they need me. They're gonna die without me.
Oh, that's a thing you just reminded me of. Oh, god damn it.
Yeah.
What if we get you have a service? You have a service that you can use on your like AI Google Glass or whatever, and you have an AR daughter that you pay a monthly subscription fee for. And if you don't pay the subscription fee, she disappears.
It's coming.
I'm just gonna go Homestead, I think.
Yeah, exactly. We don't need any of it. I mean, will it get to the point where we're simulating paternal relationships with AI? I mean, we were talking about it the other time, weren't we, with the one that's like, your loved ones aren't really gone when we recreate them with AI.
Yeah, no, go to hell.
Yeah, that's gruesome.
Yeah,
I've seen those too, and those are just. It feels like you're propping a dead body on a pole and carrying it around.
It's not even that. You're making a simulacra of the person and then making them follow arbitrary rules that you said. Because I'll tell you this for free: if the AI version of me does not say a slur at least once a day, it's not me.
Yeah.
Okay, so what if it does though?
What if it's worse? Like, what if it? This is what he really thought.
There are slurs I know that those guidelines would never allow.
What if, like, you did one of you and it just went rogue, and you're like, what?
I did actually fear the creation of a doppelganger.
Oh man. No, I mean it's hard to know. I mean, just because like you could theoretically clone humans in so many different countries and states that it's not out of the realm of possibility they've got like 15 Jim Carreys lined up. I don't
It
know.
would surprise me. I would be disappointed, but I would be surprised.
That would certainly allow a new level of monetization in terms of product placement. I mean, he could promote so many different things all at once.
He could make coming this summer, Ace Ventura 15 featuring Jim Carrey and Jim Carrey as Jim Carrey. It's just the whole cast is Jim Carrey. Actually, I'd watch that. That would be wild and terrifying.
There was a movie where an actor did that. I forgot the actor's name,
Oh,
which sucks because I
Oh.
loved him.
was he
But you know
on-
the one?
Dr.
Uh,
Doolittle with
Yeah, who played Dr. Doolittle in that movie?
Eddie Murphy?
Him, that
Eddie
actor.
Murphy.
He managed to play a whole movie,
Yeah.
but basically has different characters. Just the
Nutty
one guy.
Professor. That was
Was
another
You
one.
know,
Yeah.
the Nutty Professor. That was man. That was a good movie. Even with all that
Eddie
wackiness.
Murphy. Yeah, okay. Huh. Oh, that's a deep cut.
Yeah. Damn. When did that come out?
1996.
Damn.
Huh.
Wow. Are we old?
Yes,
I don't want to
incredibly
old.
old.
Hello, fellow kids.
I'm old enough to be called Unc. It's officially over for me.
Don't
Unc.
call me Unc, Jim.
Hey, to be fair on that front, I remember when I was in elementary school, there was a kid in my same grade who announced that he is now an uncle.
Yeah, I was
So-
an uncle when I was 4 years old.
Oh man. The kids in my school, right? Like normally Unc is sort of an uncool thing for people to call you, but my kids call me it affectionately and I love it. It's so funny. They're like, "Hey, it's Unc." I'm like, "What up, kids?" Good day to you.
I am just gonna have to accept my fate.
As long as it's not Uncle Joe.
Uncle Joe.
Which one? The
Sniffing
Soviet
various
one or the? Oh, that one. Yeah.
Come on, man. Let me
What's
take a
that
sniff
one?
at you. Come on.
Oh, that
You
Joe.
don't say it's
No,
funny.
don't
You
sniff.
know who I am. Don't forget me. Come on, Jill. No, Jill. Help me. They're forgetting me. Get Hunter out here, man. So
Bless you.
yeah, let us bring out the cheese.
Damn kid took my stash. You got any of them?
Okay,
Not any of
so
them.
on that note, how about we move on to
Yeah.
our next topic? Stop killing
Sure.
games. So it seems
Ooh.
that our software companies are being dicks, and they are basically creating a feature whereby you lose access to software that you've purchased rightfully when they decide they don't want to maintain the server anymore. And the thing is, I can understand why they're trying to do that, because yeah, it's a shit economy and they're trying to find better ways to make their stuff work. But at the same time, God, don't you just miss the days of the 90s when, yeah, like nostalgia, yeah, you buy a software and you keep it and people just leave you alone? That's why I use Linux.
Yeah, I
So-
think that games should implement more often the ability to make your own server and just play from there.
Hey.
Well, before we get too far into it, I can do a brief introduction. I have the Wikipedia article up, and we all know that's a definitive source of information and truth throughout the
Why,
universe.
thank you so much, sir.
Go for it.
So Stop Killing Games is a consumer movement with the goal of preserving video games after they're taken offline. It was started in 2024 by Ross Scott after the shutdown of Ubisoft's The Crew, a racing game that required constant internet connection despite being mainly single player. It uses various legal avenues to push for video game publishers being required to make games playable after their discontinuation, challenging the industry trend of selling games as a revocable license or service. So that's this intro.
Okay.
Yep. So, well, now discuss, I guess. So it's we were getting
Discuss.
into discuss. Yes, it definitely is a trend that we've been seeing. I would argue that not only in just games, but just regular software in and of itself.
Or
A popular
hardware
one
even.
is hardware too. John Deere does that with
Yeah.
their tractors. They actually recently lost a major lawsuit, so I believe so that's a positive in terms of right to repair. So right now in the states, the United States, there's a right to repair movement. So which I think the right to repair along with stop killing games are two different movements that have a lot in common and that are going to collide, hopefully for the betterment of the consumer market. So
Collide or emerge?
uh debatable.
Because if they collide, that means they're in opposition to each other.
There might be some oppositional aspects, because so from my understanding, the stop killing games, it's not regulating, it's not demanding that companies like Ubisoft or EA maintain the servers, but it's more promoting an end of life development or a cycle that promotes a end of life that supports people who want to continue using the product. Um, whereas the right to repair might demand a continuation of those services. Again, it depends on how those movements continue to evolve, and maybe, hopefully, they merge and they form in not only Europe and the United States, but maybe across the globe, into a consumer movement that promotes companies to let's say be better, provide roadmaps for end of life services and terms to consumers.
I would like to add another cause to the list called the right to pirate. I think that we should all burn these games onto discs and just sell them in the black market, in alleyways, preferably.
No,
I don't
I'm
know.
actually
There's got to be
I'm
a
actually
solution.
strongly against that. I'm actually strongly against that. So, in terms of stop killing games, if you want to look at stop killing games and equate it to something like a shovel, imagine a company makes a shovel, and then they sell that shovel to someone to use it. Well, let's say that company eventually develops a better shovel, or they get tired of producing the same shovel. Well, then they decide, oh, I'm going to go to that consumer's house that had previously bought our shovel and break it so they can no longer use that shovel.
Yeah.
That would not be acceptable. Now, just because a company decides to do that, which I would argue would be against normal laws in many countries, that does not mean that that should allow people to go to stores, go out there and start stealing shovels. So because that then goes down a very
How about this one? Like, well, if they're not using it, then we can make the same shovel on our own. Maybe would be what I'm trying to equate it to more. Well, what I'd like to see is a return of the, like, I want to say mixtape culture. You know what I mean? But I don't know. It's a weird thing with this whole that we're not supposed to own anything anymore. We're just supposed to rent it from. It's like I see that I don't think there's any way that they can actually perpetuate that, because like people, if they really want something, they will jailbreak it, type of thing.
I don't think that the problem necessarily with these games is that they eventually end up like shutting down the ability to buy the game or not. I think the problem is more of they shut down the ability to play the game, not
Yeah.
get it.
Yeah,
Well,
that's what I mean for sure.
yes,
But,
that's
I
a
mean,
strong component, but in some cases, some of these publishers actually implement almost suicide pills or kill switches, so they can actually flick a switch and suddenly kill the product that was working. A great example of this is it's not a game, but it's actually the Adobe Suite, Creative Suite 6.
oh
So
god,
yeah, that suite was actually working across several platforms, and it's still I have several machines that it's still on, and it still actually works rather well for what it does. Now, there was a certain software, like a patch almost pushed by Adobe, that essentially invalidated the key or deactivated the key, essentially shutting off the or terminating the ability to use that software, even though I had purchased the software. So, include that's a very insidious path to go down in terms of a company reaching across, reaching out, and essentially breaking your shovel, breaking your stuff that you purchased for. So,
Mm. And Adobe's been like the worst of the worst for this like predatory commercial practices, as far as I'm concerned. I just hope that we go back to somewhat more sensible consumer models. Like bring back, just as you say, buy it and then it's yours.
Yes, I think the more evil a company becomes, EA, for example, so the more people turn against it, and I can easily see a future in which a lot of people start turning against this revocable license, games as a service. I think we've actually seen a lot of people turn against games as a service, just because of these ideas. Like for Anthem, for example, made by BioWare and distributed, I think, by EA. So that I think they shut down the servers for that. So it's no longer. I don't know who would want to continue playing Anthem, but it's still, if you paid money to play it and you enjoyed flying around in a mech suit. Too bad what is it? Necromancer's not here. But if you enjoyed that, it might be a nice option to have as a game. But now you can no longer. I don't believe you can still play it. It's been a while since I've started it up, so that might be an example of where, even as terrible as the game was, it should not. It should have been off-handled, offloaded in such a way that people, if they wanted to, could still play it. Maybe they wouldn't be able to play it with multiple people. They wouldn't be able to. There's arguments over how this should be handled. And Stop Killing Games is not necessarily pushing for a hard or a hard-coded way of doing this. They're pushing for just a discussion so we stop killing these games. So these companies stop doing these practices. So, and I do find that somewhat refreshing that they're trying to start the conversation about how companies should go about the end of life of not only games, but hopefully eventually software.
What would be cool is just like, well, we're not going to market this game anymore. Let's just open source it and just put it up on the internet and let people do what they want with it.
Yeah.
That would be wild.
Yeah, kind of like what they did with Homeworld. The original Homeworld, they released the source code and all the files for it and everything, and people just mod it in the source code, which is awesome. Problem is though, here's the thing though. I wonder whether or not the games that they're actually, like, what kind of games are they actually doing this on? Is it like the games where it's like, because I just usually think, like, you've got really, really good games that a lot of thought went into that really stay with people, right? But then you've got those kinds of games where it's just how would you say it? It's like snack food. Like it's just, they threw it together. Threw it out into the world to make bucks, and so is this sort of practice being done on the games that are really, like, for example, Legend of Zelda? Is Nintendo doing this? Because Nintendo tends to do some really good games that really stick with you. Whereas, like, games like, I don't know, the Fast and, like, what was it? Was the ones, Grand Theft Auto, games like that, where it's basically, it's like these really uncouth games. Are those the ones that are being shut down in this way, or is it games in
I
general.
feel like it normally happens to games where they have a dedicated cult following, but they don't have an enormously successful game. And so they kind of just cut off what fans they do have at the knees and then just move on.
No, actually, so another example of a game that was essentially buried or destroyed, I think it was Angry Birds. So there was a version of Angry Birds that could be purchased. I actually don't remember if it was a free version or a paid version, but essentially, through all the years of making new versions, monetizations, people still preferred that game because it was to them
Oh,
a
yeah, I
very
heard
good
about that
game.
one actually.
Very
Yeah,
cool.
Yeah,
that was because it was the least monetized of the Angry
hmm
Birds. So people would
exactly.
go back to it, and then
hmm
the modern ones are all heavily monetized, and so they wanted everyone to play those, and so they shut down
Exactly.
the early stuff. Yeah, I heard
Exactly,
about
and
that.
that's why that's part of the reason why the Stop Killing Games is important because I think it saves it lays out how we could potentially save all versions of these games. So if people still want to experience the best, maybe the game as it was in its prime, people can still do that. So, but I could definitely see a business case, an argument for this is our intellectual property, uh, and we should not be forced to open source it and give it to the community. So there can be arguments on both sides. Of course, that being said, I still think that there's some scummy business practices here that are
Well, I think it's fair to
flagrantly.
not demand open sourcing, but at the barest of minimum, when someone buys it, they own it. You shouldn't
Yep.
be able to purposely destroy something that someone has bought from you.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Yeah, the main issue we have right now is I'm not entirely sure about the specifics on the terms and conditions for Adobe, but we don't actually buy the software. We get a license for it. And I think that's the case for most software how that companies use in general.
Mhm.
Um, they don't actually have a version of whatever software they're using, like Adobe Premiere. Let's say for an example, a, a while back they just stopped selling copies of the software, just gave you a license for it.
Mhm.
So it's changed a while back from being something that you own to something that you're basically renting at this point.
Yes, Adobe went to the subscription model. I don't know if it was 10 years ago, roughly at this point, but there were reasons to do that, and it's right now. I believe, even though Adobe's stock is plummeting rather hard, their I believe their profits have never been higher because of their movements to the subscription model, but also because of their scummy business practices of charging cancellation um, fees to individuals who have. It's essentially you're paying into a year contract, but only paying by month. And if you want to
Hmm.
cancel, then they charge you a cancellation fee for the months of the year that you have that are still remaining. It's a
I
very scummy
see, I
practice.
see. Do you think this would be? Do you think we would have such a counter movement against this if the companies like Adobe weren't being so scummy about their software?
So I think part of the reason why we're seeing the rise of stop killing games, right to repair, is because essentially the companies are, in a word, taking the piss. They're essentially they're they've pushed the envelope so far that it's causing people to rise up against them. So this revocable license issue, it's been in software for decades at this point. And it's generally acceptable, but I believe it's starting to be pushed to the point where it's becoming unacceptable to a lot of people. So I think this is kind of a self-inflicted gunshot that the industry, both regular software companies but also video games, I think are bringing upon themselves. Same thing with loot boxes. uh, essentially being made so prevalent that it starts to earn the ire of a lot of the user bases and a lot of people. So
I think it's become very apparent in a lot of sort of gaming scenes, because I mean, we saw the same thing with like D&D, how Wizard of the Coast was just like,
Mhm.
oh, we're gonna own all of your third-party content that you made because it's
Mhm.
using our system. We own it now, and it's like, no, 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 that's not how that works. And like people were just like, nope, we're gonna make new games then. And so the market reacted by people just making a whole bunch of new stuff. And I don't think their numbers ever went back to what they were a few years ago. So I mean, I don't know, maybe the market will adapt. I don't know.
Well, I imagine what happens as these consumer protections roll out. It's going to hopefully curtail a lot of the excesses of a lot of these companies to the point to where they can still be profitable, but at the same time, they're not going to be shooting themselves in the foot as aggressively as they are now. Or earning the ire of the players and the users of the software. So it actually may ultimately benefit a lot of these companies. That's the hope.
Mm,
Uh,
I don't know.
anything else, or are we? Is that it?
I think for that
I
discussion,
suppose I don't know. We'll see where it goes.
yeah.
I think that you can't endlessly extract money from people for no, especially
Yeah.
when like I think you've got to respect the consumer basically,
Mhm.
and
Well,
just yeah. Otherwise,
yeah.
they will turn against you.
It's an evolving subject, so I imagine like just our discussion now, it's not going to necessarily fade overnight. We're probably going to be
No.
hearing little bits and pieces of this for years to come. So, and we'll see ultimately how it plays out.
Okay, well, I guess we can move on to our last subject. Were classic games really better? And this is actually an idea I have for a video essay we can do on the Meninx Games channel. Basically, my thoughts are we hear a lot of people complaining how, like, oh god, games were so much better way back in the day, and there is a reason that can be, right? One reason is that computer systems, consoles, and everything were very, very, very constrained, and so you had to really mine their limits. For example, on the NES, having to like making a really good game in a few kilobytes required a lot of very clever thinking in terms of coding and how you store the assets and everything and how you load them. Whereas these days we've got gigabytes to spare on our systems, and so programmers get lazy. They're not and it's also the graphics capabilities are so high that you can just bombard people's dopamine receptors with pretty pictures, and as a result you don't need to engage them the same way that old games needed to when the graphics capability was less. And so as a result, that's one hand, is that technology has advanced so far that you can just you can get a really good game that people are praising, even though you didn't really do very much in it except just make lots of pretty pictures. On the other hand, there's another aspect that I never thought of, that I thought of recently. Is it possible that the ratio of good games to bad games has always been the same, and it's just that these days we have more mass media highlighting the bad games? Because think about it, way back in the 90s, you had only a few narrow channels through which to get games out, like advertise games and talk about games. You had a magazine that might come out every month, and you had the TV, and that's about it. These days, you've got daily or by the minute bombardment of this game, that game, that game, that game, and coverage on all of it. And so, and you can see in your feed, this game is shit, that game is shit, that game is crap, we don't like that game. And as a result, people are thinking, because we tend to focus more on the bad than the good, that's why we're thinking that, oh, classic games were just so much better, when in reality, the ratio of bad to good is the same and never changed. What do you guys think?
I don't agree with that. No, I'd say that it's likely that there was a lot more bad games in the classic days, sure, that we never played, but those fell away. But I still find that the ratio of good games has shrunk, because back then, even if you have like come across a game that you may not have ever touched, you start it up and it may be a blast. And
I agree.
and that's just the niche games, and the well-known ones are iconic for a reason. And then when you look at games nowadays, not only are the ones that are publicly known commonly crap, but even if you find some niche game that you download that's released relatively freshly, it's pretty unlikely to be good either.
Yeah, I think that even bad games back then, you could pick them up and they were actually good. They were better than a lot of the stuff that you find these days.
Someone does not remember E.T.
Oh,
That Atari game.
yeah, but I had a blast playing that.
So I do see the point of, because we now have a sort of standardized industry, we do end up seeing a lot more lazy developer practices be, well, not nipped in the bud.
Mhm.
So you do end up having a lot of games basically play the same to varying degrees of quality. And yeah, as you say, there's very few good games I would consider to be actually pretty good or excel in what they do. At the top of my head, I can only really think of about 3 in the last 5 years.
Here's an example. Does anyone remember Separation Anxiety? It was like a Venom. It was a Venom Spider-Man game, and like I remember as a kid, I was playing that, and I was like, "Holy shit, this is the coolest thing ever! I love Venom. Venom's so cool," you know. And I look at gameplay now, and I'm like, "Wow, this game was bad." But back then, it wasn't bad. It was pushing the envelope back then, kind of. But objectively, it wasn't that good.
Oh, right,
no,
Mouse PI for Hire. Yeah, so I saw that game, and it is basically just another another old was it not Quake? Yeah, was it Quake?
Streets of Rage.
The animation, the theming is just so on point. It's a work of art. Like I just like, even so, on the right lower hand corner, there. So if you imagine like a Doom HUD or any like first person shooter HUD where it shows the bullets, they even animated the bullet for for when it hires, and then the heart, like as the character gets damaged, the heart gets beat up. A lot of attention to even the smallest
Oh
details.
yeah.
So it's an amazing, it's just from a graphical standpoint, from a theming standpoint, it's an amazing game. And Cuphead, that was another amazing game. There's so many small indie developers. We have never been exposed. The gaming industry has never been as large in a way in terms of putting out output like it has in this current day and age. So anyone who says, "Oh, the '90s games were better," or things were all better in the '90s," that's like a boomer saying, like, "Oh, my gas guzzling vehicle of the '70s or something was better." It's like in its day, maybe. Um, but in terms of just the sheer market size, we have an amazing market full of games. Yes, there are a lot of well-known publishers and developers that are not utilizing the tools correctly, utilizing the Unreal Engine. They just click a button and rely on AI frame generation. There's a lot of that bad stuff going on in the industry, but there's still an amazing amount of games available today. There's no reason for a gamer in today, like this current period of time to be bored. It's fabulous. It's great. I
I
can't.
wonder about the
say
ratio.
Well, there is one reason: lack of funds.
Hmm. I do wonder about the ratio though, because it seems that there are a lot of those kind of cookie cutter, like team shooter type things where they just slap it together and they're like, oh yeah, it's like all the other games.
Well,
But
the tools certainly do allow for a lot of asset flips. So yes, you could argue that the amount of asset flips has exploded. But by that same metric, that also allows teams to more put out games that are more competitively priced. And yes, true, it can be expensive, but in terms of like inflation, how things have changed over the course of time for what you pay for certain goods and services, games have not necessarily risen at the same level. That's not exactly true for AAA games because they get you in other ways with cosmetics. They have other streams of monetization. But to get a solid game like Mouse PI or Silk Song, Silk Song was $20 US, so USD. And that's amazing for that. That's an excellent value proposition there.
and we have one thing now that we didn't have back then, which is the whole BlackRock creation guidelines, and it's actually a little confusing. Like, why were they so cheap back then? How could that be? When now, I mean, I don't know that it's all inflation. I think games were generally a bit cheaper.
It also was, I think, less bloat back then.
Mm.
You didn't have as many people hiring friends of friends into positions that they didn't need to be in. So there wasn't much incentive for just keeping the price, what, $40, then racking it up later on.
Yeah, maybe because there was more actual competition. Like, in order to stand out in a pre-internet world, you had to actually make something that was engaging and interesting. Something like Altered Beast.
Yeah.
I love that game.
Of Super Ghosts and Ghouls. Oh
man.
I can still trigger my best mate's PTSD by talking about that, because he and I, for weeks, we sat there trying to play that game and we barely got halfway through the second level. And we were yelling and screaming at the screen. We were so annoyed. Also Commander Keen. Commander Keen was awesome. Fuck, I love Commander Keen. That game is why I got into coding. So
here's another thought. So I remember back in the day. So it's games were priced, cartridge games like Nintendo, Super Nintendo. They were so expensive that it was actually practical to have not only video rentals back in the day. There was not only video rentals, but there were game rentals.
They were game rentals.
Now, so many of those game rental companies have either gone out or had to transition to different structures, just because you experience a Steam sale, they knock 30% off a game that's already in a way heavily discounted, especially if you wait a couple of years. It's a pretty, and there's a lot of competition out there. It's a great time for gamers, I think.
Dude, that actually, the rental market didn't disappear, it just transformed, because that's what Game Pass and all that are now.
In a way, yeah.
You see what I mean? That's a weird thing to think about. Like, so then in that case, the ownership market is like, I mean, what we're seeing with that, the previous subject is that the ownership market is still there. You know what I mean? The rental market isn't the only market.
Yeah, good old games GOG, I believe, still allows downloading of a full game without DRM. So technically, you download it, it's on your hard drive, you own it, you can use it without restriction, which is nice.
Yeah,
Yeah.
GOG is real good on that front, which is part of the reason that I'm quite glad it's a persistent competitor with Steam. Because even if Steam one day decides to swap CEOs and go full AAA dev, then
I am worried about that.
Oh,
even when that day comes, we can always swap to GOG.
did you see that thing, the April Fool's thing about Steam being bought by Microsoft?
Is that what it was in April 1st?
Yeah,
I
Oh
heard
god,
about
don't give
that,
me
but
a
I didn't
heart
realize it
attack.
was April 1st when that announcement came out.
yeah. It was. I was like, I was pissed, and then I was like, wait, it's April 1st. Oh man.
This is why you gotta literally live under a rock for that 24-hour period. You cannot see anything. Ever.
Yep. Everything that happened on that day was fake. Artemis too.
Oh,
I
very well.
despise, in so many ways, I despise Microsoft so much. If I had seen that, there probably something bad would have happened.
I legit raged for a while before I realized it was like.
When I first heard the news, I was like, that doesn't sound right. That doesn't sound like something current Steam would do.
Yeah.
And so I ended up looking into it and found out, and just the immediate search AI told me, no, that's nonsense. And I was like, yeah, that makes sense.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But I think there is a general fear that eventually, I mean, Gaben, great guy.
Mm.
Well, he's human. Eventually, he's
Yep.
going to retire on his fleet of yachts and drift off into the sunset. So what's going to happen? I am kind of concerned, like for all our massive libraries on Steam.
He's gonna George Lucas it. Well, hopefully, like he goes like, "Hey guys, burn all your stuff right now," because I'm taking it all down. I don't know.
I think that the like I said, the best case scenario is that we all have GOG as our essentially backup gun.
Yep.
When we run out of ammo on Steam, we can always reach for our pistol.
Yep,
Mhm.
I've got GOG. I bet I've been playing what's it called? Yeah, SimCity 3000. The only
You guys there? I have stuffed this up. I am really, really, really sorry, everyone. Well, I guess we're going to have to end the stream there because I have screwed up the audio massively. I am really, really sorry. We'll have to continue our topic about whether or not games are good or bad next time. I've been your very, very bad host, CS Cooper, and I will talk to you later.